Welcome back to the ReTribalize podcast, where we talk about building the towns and the villages of the future. Today, we're comparing and contrasting three subcultures within this frontier, and that is homesteaders, the spiritual community, and the tech utopists. Let's get right into it. When you look away from mainstream society, there's very few key players actually building real communities and having a sense of belonging. One of the main ones is the spiritual community. So when I was 19, I dropped out of an Ivy League school, and I basically was like turning away from everything I knew. And I ended up being hopelessly alone for a long time, searching for my people, like searching for my tribe. And I just couldn't find them. Like, where are they outside of colleges, outside of the mainstream world? And of course, I drifted into the spiritual community, right? It is intentional community living in Durango, Colorado. And when I got there, I met all of these different people that were into ecstatic dance, that were exceptional at throwing potlucks, building like permaculture. They had this dream of building this kind of like new self-sustaining spiritual value system and community outside of the mainstream world. And I was like, yes, I finally found my people. I really thought I found my people in a spiritual community. But as I've grown through the past 10 years and experienced, this community everywhere from like Pisac, Peru, to Tulum, to Lake Atitlan, Boulder, Colorado, Hawaii, Durango, what I've noticed is that this spiritual community is stuck in a monoculture. It's stuck in an ideology that is very limiting to its growth. So to start with in this presentation, I want to talk about the spiritual person, what they get right and what they get wrong. Of course, I'm going to speak in generals here. There's much diversity within this, but the spiritual identity, it tends to be conscious, like conscious community, right? Communal. They're very communally oriented, and then heart-centered, right? They really go based on vibes. Their motivation behind people in this community tends to be connection, healing, and freedom, right? They found this place. When you arrive in the spiritual community, right, you're going to find people who are much more expressive than you're used to finding in the mainstream society. They like to dance, do martial arts, go to retreats, have ceremonies, right? And it can be very colorful for a period of your life, right? And I got a lot of medicine doing these kinds of things. In terms of the spiral dynamics of Ken Wilber, which we often talk about on this channel, just go familiarize yourself with it. The spiritual identity in people tend to be very much in the green sensibility and the purple sensibility, meaning the green is they're deeply egalitarian. They're deeply like communally conscious and value inclusion, multiculturalism, pluralism. The purple is kind of their spirituality, which is like pseudo-indigenous kind of nature Gaia worship. It's very animistic, right? And I think all aspects of the spiral dynamics are important to include in like a holistic village, right? A real holistic type of town or city. But the spiritual community is so over-indexed on green and purple that they're lacking a lot of the red and orange, which we're going to talk about here. So this is kind of like the dream of the spiritual people, right? If I walk around the streets of Lake Atitlan right now, every single person I meet, I shit you not, is going to tell me that they want to live in a village with their friends, that they want, a heart-centered community, growing their own food, raising children together, having more freedom, lack of coercion, lack of standards. They want to build something outside of the mainstream, and it's one of their strengths is they're dreamers, right? Their great weakness, though, is that, they don't have much grounding or structure, and it limits them intensely. So the strengths of this community, getting into that now, is the community energy. As I said, these people tend to be the best at gathering on the planet, period, right? Here, there's ecstatic dances, cacao ceremonies, drum circles, workshops, retreats, like things going on all the time. And it's one of the reasons I keep coming back to the spiritual community, although I've grown so far beyond it. Like my thinking, my worldview, my ambitions so far transcend the spiritual community. But to this day, I have yet to find people who get the first thing right, which is let's gather, let's throw awesome events, let's vibe out, going to an insane dance party tonight, right? And because of this, I can go to a restaurant here and people are painting. There's entrepreneurs working. There's cute girls I can go talk to. And I don't know where I can find that in mainstream society outside of the bars. And honestly, I would rather have people who are awakening away from the mainstream society than people who are firmly stuck in it right now, although we need to build better bridges, right? So another strength of the spiritual communities, they're very high in openness. And this is why they're good at like all of these different events, communities, ritual bonding practices, shared meaning. They're very good at healing and integration. In general, the spiritual community is very feminine, right? This is why they don't like hierarchy. This is why they love like healing integration ceremonies, right? They excel at emotional safety, nonviolent communication, expression, and belonging. Essentially, in my mind, the spiritual community makes up the internal core of, of a bigger tribe, right? The other thing is it's easy to join. One of their chief values is radical inclusion. We see that at a place like Burning Man. Low barriers, low hierarchy, easy to join, high in openness, high in healing and integration. But there's some glaring weaknesses with every single one of these has its counterpoint that, I've really noticed. Number one is a leadership vacuum, okay? The reason that there's a spiritual monoculture and everywhere you go, it's the same. People prioritizing all of these gatherings, having great events, but everyone's broke, right? Everyone says they want to live in a village with their friends, but so few are actually doing it. The real projects and intentional communities that are off the ground are perpetually half finished. And also inside of those communities, everything is done by committee. There's like this shared ideology, this shared religion, right? That is almost repulsive to me at this point, and it's so hard to exist within. So the leadership vacuum, what this means is that there's a lack of founder energy, startup energy. And it's because people who are really good at building things in the world tend to not go find these people, and these people tend to not produce this kind of founder energy. And because of that, there's no differentiation. If we want to start real ReTribalize projects, real towns, and like a diversity of different types of towns, what we need is leaders rising and uniting people and being like, hey, we actually have an identity here that's outside of the mainstream, but it's also outside of just the spiritual monoculture. We have an identity. We have an ideal. We have a shared sense of direction. We have love and belonging around the way, and we have clear standards for execution and how to get in, right? If you let every single person into your tribe, what's going to happen is your tribe's going to cater to the lowest common denominator, right? And that's going to be repulsive to top talent. If you want leaders, like if you want, this kind of founder energy, you have to integrate the masculine again, right? So what the spiritual community lacks is structure, masculine energy. There's very little execution muscle. Nothing gets finished, right? And if you go to an intentional community, which I lived in for many years, right? Everything is consensus driven. It's like emotional politics happening all the time. Endless meetings. And most of these people haven't built shit in their lives, right? And generally they think leadership is bad. They want like really egalitarian leadership. In fact, if someone owns land, everyone becomes distrustful of them because they want it all in like a decentralized autonomous organization. They don't want clear, directive, creative, visionary energy. And one of the things I say to people in this community is, hey, actually maybe we should promote leadership and just promote great leadership. And if that happens, then there's going to be a multiplicity of different communities rising. And if you don't like the leader of one, go to a different one, right? So we can get deeper into my philosophy here, but a leadership vacuum and lack of structure. And this creates a really unstable talent base, right? So people drift, they vibe hop. They stay for 3 months and then leave. And one of my biggest issues with the spiritual community is I can't find people who really want to build, who want to go build a startup with me, a great business, an economic engine that could actually fund the land and fund the tribe. People don't quite have the level of discipline there, and they're economically weak. Money is a taboo. There's no strong business engine, and there's an avoidance of real conflict. They can't really handle strong masculine leadership. So the reason that all of these weaknesses exist is because the spiritual community exists in complete opposition as a reaction to mainstream corporate culture. It is the opposite. And mainstream corporate culture is hierarchical, masculine, and more like patriarchal, right? And my thesis for the spiritual people, if they want to go beyond the monoculture and not exist in perpetual fairyland, right, they need to integrate the masculine. And the main thing you have to think about when you're integrating the masculine is exclusion and hierarchy. This is going to trigger a lot of people, right? So when it comes to hierarchy, why hierarchy exists and why hierarchy is masculine is hierarchy exists to penetrate into frontiers, okay? If you're going to put together a crew to go cross the ocean for the first time, like Magellan, you want Magellan. You want a captain that has a clear vision, a plan, the drive, the charisma to lead the charge. And then you want a leadership team around him, a right-hand man who can operate the decks, right? The last thing you want is halfway across the ocean to start bringing a vote to which direction to go that night. Hey, like Sailor Steve, like which direction do you want to? That's not how it works, right? It's the same thing with like any Navy SEAL team, any like military strike operation, very clear command structure. Now, if there's great leadership, which is what we should really promote in general, if there's great leadership, it's a two-way flow of information. The leader is like making suggestions, receiving information, and is only applying his real will, like if it's required. He's trying to delegate as much task and promote the best to leadership positions to aid him in his quest, right? So hierarchy exists as a spear to penetrate frontiers. This is why hierarchies exist on all sports teams, in business, in the whole startup world. You have a CEO, you have a founding team, a leadership team, right? Hierarchies exist in militaries, you know, anywhere where there's danger, where you're going into a frontier. And the thing is if we actually want to build real villages with our town, with our friends, like new towns, a new type of parallel institution and parallel society, what you need is powerful teams. This is the first principle of the ReTribalize project. And the first principle of our entire philosophy here is that we should orient around building the most powerful teams possible, of very capable people and talented people across a diversity of excellences. You can go see my archetypal map of the types of people we should look for. But if you're looking at building a really high-powered team, what you want is leadership, like people who are going first, people like me, frankly, right? Who make all this content, who build an online community and network, who filter from that network to my great team and best friends in real life with the mission of starting the next great town. Like you need that energy or nothing's going to happen. And also, if you want leadership and you want top talent, you need structure, because really masculine men, right? This is what the spiritual community lacks. All these women here, they're like, I want a masculine partner, like a real, like, you know, real man. The issue is like masculine men like hierarchies. They like structures, whether they know it or not. A lot of this is unconscious for most people. So I hope I'm illuminating, you know, what's going on here. Is masculine men, they love playing Call of Duty because they love ranking up. They like the military because they like ranking up. They like startups because they feel like they can earn distinction, right? Their excellences can be seen. Like men tend to like orders, structure, hierarchies, and these things that penetrate into frontiers. That's very masculine, right? So when you don't have this and you create an entire ideology, an entire community on these principles, healing, high in openness, community energy, heart-centered communication, X, Y, and Z, you will never attract the top talent men. And if you don't attract the top talent men, nothing will happen, because those are the men who are going to go pioneer into the frontier, make all the money, and start the freaking tribe, right? So there needs to be a deeper alliance between the feminine and the masculine. To tell you one more story, like I'm here at a decentralized autonomous organization conference, a DAO conference. It's about crypto, meets spirituality, meets regenerative agriculture, meets all these interesting things, right? And I think like this kind of energy is great once you do have a community established, right? It's like the inside, it's the internal feminine flow of gatherings, of events, of interesting and beautiful and harmonious things occurring. But it's not going to actually be the spear that penetrates into building like a counter institutions, right? So failure modes of the spiritual community is the community collapses into endless interpersonal drama. They also don't have any boundaries around sexuality, which is a huge like, I don't think many people can actually do polyamorous relationships, and those things, sexual chaos destroys communities faster than almost anything. Financial insolvency, not much money in this community. If there is a leader, the reason this community is so scared of leaders is because of charismatic leader cult dynamics. So instead of charismatic leadership and instead of hierarchies of the corporate world, they're trying to just go beyond it and create these elaborate philosophies and decentralized systems to try to oppose it. But I have a lot to say about that. I'll make a follow-up video about DAOs. This is a problem, the charismatic leader cult dynamics, and a lot of people in like the 60s and 80s who rose inside of the spiritual community as cult leaders, these people generally what they did is they sought to attract followers, right? So they sought people who like worshiped them spiritually, who adopted all their ideas and X, Y, and Z. And that's fine if you want to create a community for 25 years, but all the cults generally fail. And that's because a great leader, what he looks for is other great leaders to go with. And if you're surrounding yourself with leaders, with people with diverse excellencies, there's never a charismatic leader cult dynamic, which, you know, I'm often going to be accused of. It's whatever, but I'm always looking for people who challenge me, right? And if you have a great leadership team, there's going to be a diversity of excellence where there's many different leaders operating different parts of a larger movement. There's no way you can start a town with a charismatic cult leader dynamic. It's not possible. This is why the Osho community failed. So let's go beyond the spiritual community and look at what are our other options, right? So if we're going away from the mainstream world, where do we find our people, right, to build our teams with, who align in vision and values and whatnot, and to actually start new types of communities, whether it's an entrepreneur hub, a homestead, a spiritual village, right? I want to start a town around an academy, whatever it is. Well, the main thing, you can go look at these communities, but I do want to say, join our app, ReTribalize.ai, right? It's the foundation for all of this content and all this philosophy. ReTribalize AI is a matchmaker designed to connect you to the most aligned people and teams in the world who want to build a village with you. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, network states, homesteads, spiritual communities, whatever it is, get on our app. It's free right now for people from my channel, and it will connect you to other people doing it. Get on calls with them, see what projects are happening. We're still in beta version, so I'm looking for the power users. I think this is the real crux of the issue is we need to unite capable people into teams, period. So get on our app, link below. Let's talk about the homestead community. So in the counterculture space, there's tons of homesteaders, and a lot of these like Christian homestead communities are on the rise. If you look up homesteading on YouTube, millions of people are interested in how do I go build off grid? How do I escape the 9-to-5 rat race and like go live closer to nature and grow my own food? This is very like romanticized vision of homesteading. It's got big strengths and huge weaknesses, which we're going to talk about here. So generally, the identity of the homesteader is agrarian, grounded, and self-sufficient, right? These people love the trades. They take a lot of pride in their capacity to like build the house and farm the field. Love these guys. So their motivation of the homestead is stability, tradition, and sovereignty, okay? They really want sovereignty and they really want tradition. A lot of these people are religious, right? And because of that, their spiral dynamics, of course, are blue and beige. This adds a lot to the spiritual community, a lot. The blue is concerned with structure, with hierarchies, with tradition. These people tend to be Christian. They understand the value of family, good community, self-sufficiency. These are the salt of the earth, blue meme people, right? Beige is survival instincts, right? Can I defend myself? Can I get my own food, right? These types of things. The spiritual community lacks these so hard, right? Like beige, most people in the spiritual, like left-wing communities have no survival instinct. They have no idea, right? Like what would happen if like an invading, force was trying to take what is yours, or, they don't have much survival instinct. And also they're disconnected from the value of hierarchies and the value of tradition, which I think we need to create a right harmonious balance of. So strengths of homesteading communities, and there are many. Like I said, these people are the backbone of any culture, right? Strengths is they're grounded in the real, in land, food, skills, infrastructure, like tangible outputs. It's why they're at the cutting edge of the ReTribalize movement, right? They're very, very resilient, right? So they're resilient to like things like economic collapse, tech outages, system shocks, and it's because, again, they have very strong beige meme, very strong survival instinct, right? There's clear roles within the homesteading kind of community. Farmer, Like, do you want to be a farmer, a builder, a mechanic, right? Do you want to provide? Do you want to raise the children, right? There's very low confusion here because they're just back to the basics of what it means to be a human, right? They have shared work and shared trust, like building a house with your boys, returning to the Amish kind of way. High trust societies, right, come from this. They have low fantasy. They're not too ideological about the future, and it's because they live close to reality. Reality forces clarity for these people. The weaknesses of the homesteading community, many, just like the spiritual one, is they're too independent and they're too libertarian. What I mean by that is they have this getting a house in the woods fantasy. Oh, I'm going to go out there and like build my own house and like start my own family. Well, once you do that, you're alone. You're alone, right? And furthermore, you limit your kids on their potential. Like maybe your kids want to be a doctor. Maybe they want to start the next great, I don't know, like architecture plan or whatever. You do limit your kids to a more agrarian society. Like I was just in the mountains of Peru walking through these villages that don't even have a road to them. These are like the homesteaders' wet dream, right? Like, you know, they're self-sufficient in the highest, but like also their kids have very limited opportunity. That's one problem. Also, this libertarian fallacy is like, they think they're independent, but they're still very, very much dependent on the state, on centralized, institutions, especially if they still want phones and technology and media and stuff. So like, yeah, they lack basically what I mean there by the flaw of libertarianism. I could write an entire critique on this, as other people have, is it lacks political and mimetic power. They will always be at the mercy of those in power. Look at the farmer crisis happening in the USA right now. The farmer crisis, all of these small farms all across, America are going out of business because they're being squeezed by monopolies on both sides. The people who sell them farm equipment, all the inputs to agriculture, right, know exactly how much they're going to make and jack up the prices. And then these monopolies on the outside determine how much they can sell their grain for and sell their product for. And it just squeezes these farmers into oblivion. They lose their farms, and then Monsanto buys it. This is what's happening all over the world, right? And this is because they lack political and mimetic power. Farmers don't do what I'm doing. They're not creating mimetic power and political power by organizing people around a shared value system that is more than an agrarian movement. And this is a huge blind spot, is the libertarians will always be at the mercy of the shifting political powers of the world unless they orient towards building an actual counterculture, an actual parallel institution where we have our trade is internal within our own society, within our own town, but that town can't be capped at farming, right? This is very important because this is the farmer bottleneck. You see, I know hundreds of people that want to build towns, that want to build villages with their friends, but most of them don't want to farm. And when I say that, the homesteading, farming type people instantly look down on them, right? Oh, you don't want to farm? You don't want to work hard and labor in the sun and the exalting the glories of hard work? No, most people don't want to farm, right? Maybe they want to be an architect. Maybe they want to build beautiful hydroponic setups. Maybe they want to build the next great academy and teach Plato, right? When you only focus on farming, it creates this bottleneck that limits scale and talent diversity, right? So you get a monoculture. This is the same problem that the spiritual community has, is it creates a monoculture because it's not prioritizing a diversity of excellences, a diversity of sensibilities, right? What you're looking for is not people who think like you. You're looking for people who are excellent and going in a similar direction as you. And whether they're a farmer archetype, a spiritual vibes-based community leader, right? They're more white collar and you need a diversity of excellences, right? So farmer culture creates a culture of stagnation. It becomes insular, conservative, anti-innovation. In this, we're seeing this great conflict between the ruling forces of civilization, the ruling forces of the political world, and that is between tradition and innovation, right? When you really prioritize tradition, like good old Christian value system, salt of the earth tradition, right? You're opposed to innovation of the tech entrepreneurs, the spiritual openness to new experiences, right? And there's this conflict. And what we need to do is make this conflict generative, make this tension generative. Now, lest I sound like I'm bagging too hard on these people, if you do just want 20 people who are homesteaders living by each other, perfect. go do that. Use our app to find those people. If you just want 20 spiritual people living together in an eco-village, very attainable. Use our app, go find those people, do that. I'm not saying you have to follow my model here, but I'm saying if you are trying to build a culture that goes beyond all of these, right? Like a ReTribalize projects, a real parallel institution, what you need to focus on is attracting high talent people, knowledge workers, creatives, builders, engineers, scientists, across a wide variety of fields that want to go build that with you, right? So if you put too much pride in the trades, or you put too much pride in your spiritual belief system, or you put too much pride in anti-hierarchy, you're cutting yourself off from maximum power and maximum growth. So this creates a very slow growth curve for the farmers, right? They're basically regressing to the agricultural revolution. I'm not trying to do that. Personally, what I'd rather do is unite a high-powered team together, build an economic engine, aka the ReTribalize app. Then we're going to start the ReTribalize residency program, an ongoing meetup opportunity, right? And we're going to create all this infrastructure around building new types of communities that can actually fund our own community and fund our academy, right? And from there, I have best friends who are farmers, who are builders, who are engineers, who are mechanics. Guess what? Come now, because we actually have a source of money coming into the tribe, right? We have higher things that our children can aspire to, working in the academy, creating new businesses and economic engines for the whole, community outreach to different types of communities going on, farming, all the trades, raising children. Like if you want to build that kind of thing, you need to think about generating, like attracting high quality people and building that economic engine first, and then uniting the farmers, uniting some of the spiritual folk, uniting some of the tech utopists, which we're going to talk about. So the third community, if you like this video, share this with someone you think will impact, my friends. Let's get everyone in these spaces onto the ReTribalize app. It's the only way we can actually network and build the teams we need to build. So the tech utopia, Networkstate builders. This is a third counterculture movement. A third one. Not many people know about some of these, right? So the Networkstate, as I've talked about on this channel, is an idea written about by Balaji. He wrote the Networkstate book. It's essentially a utopian wet dream for engineers, rationalists, startup founders, and futurists. It's very tech forward, right? Very innovative heavy. They think of starting communities as startups, which I like. I like a lot of ideas from the Networkstate in general. They believe in essentially uniting people online into a digital citizenship body that crowdfunds a territory of land, an archipelago of lands, and you can live throughout the network. And they're very like business forward. You can go look up Balaji on Network School. They're renting a whole island off the coast of Singapore. And there's so many crypto people, business leaders, autistic, startup guys and engineers. A lot of orange is happening. Orange in spiral dynamics is scientific rationalism. It's individual will to power. Orange is what built capitalism, right? Orange is what built the modern world in general. So orange is great. And if we look at these three different communities that we just went through in terms of spiral dynamics, you hit the entire spectrum except red. Red is more the vitalists, which we can talk about later. But these people are orange, which the homesteaders lack. The homesteaders are not interested in science and technological innovation, right? Also, spiritual eco-village don't have any orange. Science, technological innovation, business. Tech utopias do. The Networkstate builders do. They're super important, my friends. These are the Prometheans. So the strengths of these people, right? Execution muscle. This, in terms of the counterculture space, these people have the execution muscle, right? Tech people, they ship, build, and organize things at scale very rapidly. They have leadership energy, clear founders, CEOs, operators, decision makers. They have capital. They have money, right? Like billions of dollars are interested in a Networkstate. High IQ culture. They filter based on IQ, maybe so much to their detriment because they don't understand the diversity of excellences that actually go into building a culture because they're a little bit autistic. But in general, they like digital infrastructure, coordination, matchmaking, logistics, governance, right? Like the ReTribalize app is kind of in this sphere, right? Weaknesses, some glaring weaknesses with the Networkstate that I've outlined in other videos is Balaji in the Networkstate, love the book. It's a great book. Everyone should read it in the space. But in the Networkstate, he says that these network states could form around a moral innovation, right? And that moral innovation could be, we believe in keto, kosher health, like you're a health tribe, right? And he thinks that citizenship can form around this moral innovation and actually manifest real civilization and real culture. He's super weak in this area of what actually creates culture, is because he lacks social glue, cultural cohesion, and deeper things, right? So like shared ideology, value systems, and a moral innovation do not actually unite people or create culture. He needs to go to Burning Man. Balaji needs to go to Burning Man. He needs to go to a festival. He needs to go to a potluck, because you're going to realize that it is deep, shared, meaningful experiences around dance, movement, shared struggle, prayer, getting raw with each other. These things actually bond people on a heart level. If you want to build new towns and new civilizations and new villages, what you have to get exceptionally good at as a leader is winning hearts, not minds. Minds will not build culture, hearts do. And this is why culture is always described by the music it creates, by the dances it invents, by the colors, by the artwork, by the language, by these like more romantic, heart-centered qualities. And guess what? Who gets these really right? The spiritual community. They understand this shit, although they lack all the structure of the blue meme, who also kind of understands this unconsciously. That's why you need the synthesis of all of this. In my vision, that's my idea, like my vision. What I mean by that is you can go start a network state. Go join the tech utopias if that's you. Go join the homesteaders. Go join the spiritual community. But if you want to go beyond all of these, what we need to talk about is building a ReTribalize projects, which I'll get to in a second. Going deeper into the weaknesses here is it's over theorized heavily. You go into things like Praxis, Networkstate. They have a Discord server of like 16,000 people and all this elaborate philosophy, but no one really on the ground uniting deep teams of powerful people who are going to go build this shit, right? It's very over theorized. I hate over theorizing. Really hate it. I believe in organic emergence. So it's like unite a team, solve one problem into the world, create resources and time together that bonds a team, then maybe buy land, invite other people one by one, build a freaking wolf pack of people who would be the godfather of your children, slowly descend downwards into inviting families, children, think about education, farming, agriculture, these kinds of things. And then from there, think about the network state, right? How do we replicate this all over the world and create that network online around a shared ethos that we discovered together? You can't do it the other way. You can't do it top down. You got to do it from bottom up. That's my thesis, right? So, let's go straight into the ReTribalize project. I could talk about the modern co-living. I think this is also another subculture of people. Let me know what subculture I'm missing, but I am getting tired. So let's talk about where ReTribalize sits in this. So you've heard the philosophy of building a team, right? I have this online network, the Men's Academy, which is going to become the ReTribalize Academy. There's a link below to talk to me about it if you want to join it. But basically, I have this online network that people join through all my YouTube channels. From there, we run calls. We discuss philosophy, building tribe, business, X, Y, and Z, with the explicit intention of uniting teams from that network to build houses in real life, right? So here I am in Tulum in this picture, with 4 guys from the academy, from my network, right? And these are my co-founders on the app, Steven and Brennan. Amazing guys. I've met my best friends through my YouTube channels. It's incredible, right? And this is why we started the ReTribalize app, is because I want to give you access to the capacity to filter the entire world, to meet your best friends who want to build the dream with you. If we all do this on a small scale, then those teams can unite to build something bigger. It's the only way ReTribalize projects are going to get done. Come join the app. And I'm gonna pitch this relentlessly throughout these videos, huh? So what our vision is, right? And like a lot of people can critique us in a lot of ways. I don't have all the freaking answers, but I do have the starting point, right? It's like build that team, build that real social bond, and then start building the finances to actually do something real in the world. As you go along, if you're a tribe entrepreneur, which is who I try to speak to on this channel, if you're a tribe entrepreneur, you have to understand these 3 types of people and these 3 types of memes. It's very important. Homesteaders, they bring embodiment, land, and resilience, right? Very important to have some of these on your team and in your network. The spiritual community provides belonging. They're the cultural glue. Now, you don't need to go off the deep end of like hippy dippies if that's not the direction you want to go, but people who have been in like the festival scene, in the gathering of people, in this like heart-centered, communal-oriented, vibes-based world, these people are amazing to be around. They're so good to be around, right? This is the feminine leadership that happens inside of a community. They're good at bonding, rituals, emotional glue, myth, and beauty, right? And then tech founders, vitalists, Networkstate people, they provide leadership and engines to build structure, execution, capital, and scale. These three countercultural movements, I want to speak to you guys. I want you guys on the app. We got to unite. We got to start working together in a deeper way if we want to build like a new archipelago of different ReTribalize projects that are parallel institutions. I'm actually not that antagonistic towards the mainstream culture. You know, I enjoy a lot of the fruits of the mainstream culture. We just need to build in parallel to it, something a little bit different, right? So I see a deep alliance between these guys, and that's why I made this video. ReTribalize projects in terms of Ken Wilber's spiral dynamics, of course, we're aiming at the yellow meme. And what that means is that we transcend and include all the other memes, from beige to red to blue to orange to green. We have to bring them all in how we lead and how we think and how we unite people. So that's my thesis. You can go throughout my podcast and channel if you want to learn more about what we're doing and my thoughts on this whole movement here. Please reach out to me. You can schedule a call through the link in the description to talk to me one-on-one, to join the academy, to find the others. And if not, everyone, the app is free for you. Come join. Help us build it. Peace.